Excellent. I'll take you through this one more time, and then each time now that you blink and blank the screen out by blinking your eyes, I'll be counting, and I'd like you to do it 5 times, and I'm going to take it through it one more time. Bring back the stuck state picture onto the screen. Down in the bottom right hand corner is your resource picture. It's an inch by an inch, you can just barely make it out. And now the resource picture zooms in and fills the foreground, simultaneously sucking the stuck state picture back. And you're left with the resource picture. Seeing the resource picture, feeling the resource picture, and then blank your eyes, blanking the screen out. And now go through this process 5 times, and I'll be counting each time that you blink your eyes after you see the resource picture before you bring back the stuck state picture. Excellent. Excellent. Now start to speed the process up. You'll imagine that you have a switch inside that can really start to speed it up, like it's going to go fast. And you'll know the process is there. Blinking your eyes, blinking the screen each time you do it. And now do it really rapidly as it's sped up very fast. Rapidly now, rapidly. When you've done it just rapidly like that, indicate by lifting your yes finger that you're ready to go on with the process. Excellent. Alright, now what I'd like you to do is as this finger lowers in a moment, bring back now your left hand into the visual picture, into the visual screen, so that we can do this with your left hand as well. So as you see your left hand coming up to be involved in this process that's been there in the past, indicate by lifting your yes finger. Okay, excellent. Alright, and as this finger lowers in a moment, what I'd like you to do is to blank the screen out and bring back a resource picture. And as the finger lowers, see the resource picture and blow the resource picture up and bring it in close and make it just perfect. That this resource picture doesn't have much in the background, it's just something that's symbolic. And that when you've done that, allow your finger to lower, indicating that you're seeing this resource picture, and that you're feeling the resource picture. It's reminding you of your resourcefulness. Excellent, and what it is that you want. Okay. And now what I'd like you to do is you're going to shrink that resource picture down and bring it down and put it in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. And you'll bring back the stuck state picture onto the screen. As you see your hand coming up, your frozen picture frame of that. And on the screen, down in the bottom right hand corner, you see the resource picture. And when you're seeing these two, allow your yes finger to rise, indicating you're there. Excellent. Okay, now again, you're going to see the resource picture zoom in and fill the foreground, simultaneously sucking the stuck state picture back and you'll be left with the resource picture. Seeing the resource picture, feeling the resource picture, and then blank your eyes, blanking the screen out, and indicate that you're ready to start the process again by lifting your yes finger, and I'll take you through it one more time, and you'll be doing it. Excellent. Okay. Now, bring back the stuck state picture onto the screen. Down in the bottom right hand corner is the resource picture, and the resource picture zooms in and fills the foreground, simultaneously sucking the stuck state picture back and you're left with the resource picture. Seeing the resource picture, feeling the resource picture, and then blank the screen out, blanking your eyes good, and go through this process now 5 times, and I'll be counting. And you can be imagining the ability to start to speed it up as you go. Excellent. Now faster. Do like you did with this other side. Fast. When you've done it really Excellent. Excellent. Now it's excellent that Penny has done this very fast, because it's 1,000th of a second that the brain makes decision, and it'll not give her conscious mind anything to do with the process. Her unconscious mind literally has this in there. And now what I'd like you to do, Penny, is go into the future now, or maybe a month, and imagine that you have had this resource all this time, and it's a month into the future. When you are looking, and maybe you are at the desk, and you are seeing yourself at the desk, and maybe then you are joining yourself and you are inside yourself looking out, and it's a month's time, and you've felt success as you think back to this day, having the resource today that you have in the future, having been successful with this process. What I'd like you to do now is to imagine that your left hand is going to indicate to us that you're feeling success with this strategy, and that your hand completely rests on your leg. Your unconscious mind's indicating that you are successful, and that you've been successful with this process. And now go to that place now with your hand. Allow your hand to go to that place now. And even though it's possible for your hand to go all the way down to your knee, okay, we're going to do something else a little as well to help speed the hand going down. And what I'd like to do is, as we're doing this, your hand can be moving down as much as you sense your body's feeling that there's been a resource that's been wired in, and that now you are sensing a feeling of an inner calm inside, with a realization of many things, in fact, that's to do with your wellness, and how much it is that you have this ability to frame things positively at work, and how much it is a sense that you are modeling things for people there very much, that you are second in command there in that business, and that you are modeling things for people, and how much you are a people person, and how much people love to be around you, and how much you're assisting them in your ability to guide people as a result of having experienced what it is that you've had acknowledged inside about what brings on this inner calm. And what I'd like you to do now, in the distance that's left between your hand resting on your knee, is imagine that you have this resource, and that you see yourself at the desk, and that you're lengthening the inspiration through your nose, and that you've forgotten all things you love to forget. I'm waking in a moment. You'll have forgotten all things that you love to forget. You'll remember a moment in the past where you were wondering that you'd forgotten something, and you were trying to figure out what that was. And that when you have this feeling that you've forgotten, and you're trying to figure out what that is, indicate by allowing your yes finger to raise that you have this feeling that you've forgotten. And maybe you're searching for something, you're trying to remember what that is. Excellent. And that what you'll remember this feeling of forgetfulness upon waking. And I'm going to be counting backwards from 5, and as I count backwards from 5, this hand can be ever so gently now feeling a sense of it floating back down towards your knee. And take some time now as you're relaxing more and more, as you remember yourself slipping into a slumber, feeling that in a moment, as I count backwards from 5 and I get to 1, some time will pass, and during this time you'll be feeling that you're sinking even deeper and deeper into this state. That some time will pass, and then I'll clap my hand and you'll come back really quickly, and you'll remember that you've forgotten. You'll have this feeling of forgetting, but you'd love to forget about this, and that you've gone into the future a month and having forgotten about this, and you've gone on with the folly of life. And as I'm counting backwards from 5 and you're relaxing even more, you can be feeling the earth drawing you into the center, and feeling gravity, and feeling heavier and heavier, like things are fading away. And as things are fading away here, allow the sound of the surf again to come in. And as you lift this finger, bring up the volume of the sound of the surf breaking on the beach, crashing on the beach. Imagine yourself to be walking again on the beach, feeling the sand underneath your feet. Sometimes the waves really crash quite loud, and you turn the volume up. In other times it's ever so gently, quietly. A sense of peacefulness and sereneness. Inspiration through the nose. 3. Okay, move around a little bit, Penny. Speed things up a little bit. Good stuff. Okay, it was very interesting because I don't know whether Penny will remember this. Can you remember something that I said to you at the very end of the session? I'm just checking because then I'll share something that happened. Some people may remember something that I said.
You said when you come out you will be thirsty.
You'll feel a little thirsty. Yes, and you'll want to have a drink. Okay, excellent. Now we have anything that passes us by, we have the ability to get it back through association. So the moment that if I would have said, do you remember me saying, and then I share with you what it was that I said, you would say, oh yes. It's possible though that it was not at that recall level without the thirst. Anyway, what I was noticing was Ken was some people actually also went out to it as well whilst you were going through the process, and I'd suggested that you would be a little thirsty when you woke up, right? And so the very first thing that Ken did when you were woke up again, he immediately asked you, oh, would you like a drink? And offered you a drink. And mostly he'd heard the suggestion. I don't know if he remembers that or not.
I don't remember it.
I didn't see him do that.
Yes, yes.
I don't recall you asking me about it.
Okay, so he did do this over here just when we woke up again. And I immediately said to Penny, well, it'd be a good idea that when you wake up, you'll remember this feeling of having forgotten. And so mostly that was actually there. And so then a little bit of time passed, and we more or less were gathering our stuff off and left then. And then Penny's coffee cup was over here, and at that point then, after we'd talked a little bit, right, then you went over and slurped down like half a cup of coffee or something like that. The cold one. So, what questions do you have about that? And then I'll talk a little bit about the process. Actually, any questions you have?
I wanted to ask you, with me, some of the times when you were speaking about food groups and things, I got confused. I wasn't really sure what you wanted me to do. Were you doing that on purpose? Or when you were saying, like, now I want you to go in the past towards the future in the past? And I was like,
yes.
And instead of kind of resistant, I thought maybe that was one of those things you were doing to occupy the left.
Yes, and the main thing was that something that you were sensing that you have in the future, it's possible to have today. And also too, like when you're using verb tense, it's possible that it spins the brain out a little bit. And actually we're doing things like this. Actually, like somebody says something to us and we've been thinking about something else, and all of a sudden scrambles the brain, you go, what? And then the person says it again actually. So there's techniques that we have to go from one place to another. The main thing is that if you have the ability to use verb tense when you're with people, and you have the ability to paste something into the past and bring something into the present, your language is like gold to the people that you're around if you have the ability to use verb tense this way. It's important in doing this the squash. So we did a visual squash more or less with Penny, that you are always moving toward using the vestibular and direction to move toward the thing that Penny wants, so that's coming in toward her, or that she's moving toward that. Okay, and you're using direction this way, and so that the direction of the stuff that Penny didn't want was actually moved away, and the whole thing becomes quite powerful because one thing becomes connected to the other. As one thing happens, then the other. Whilst one thing happens, the other happens. So that's it's much more a stronger, like cause and effect. As one thing happens, then another happens.
Why did you have two hands going?
Because, well, first of all, when you access tonic contraction, when Penny had her hands out in front of her, she had accessed a state in her brain that was involving tonic contraction. There's two types of contraction. There's voluntary contraction, where you voluntarily move your arm, and many things we're doing is actually voluntary movement. And many things also at an unconscious level are actually tonically contracted. So when I asked more or less Penny to have her hands out in front of her, the reason why I did this was to create a state of tonic contraction, because tonic contraction is when you have access to the brain stem, and mostly this is what's accessed in hypnosis is this part of us, this tonic contraction. The tonic contraction is using different motor efferents and a different motor hookup. So these are using the alpha hookup, which are very much finer to the muscles, right? Whereas the beta hookup, they're much larger end plates coming from the axons that fit onto the muscle, right? And they're much bigger, and basically they're involved in voluntary contraction. But this other system, when you connect up to that other system in hypnosis, you're creating brain entrainment, and you're using the brain stem and tonic contraction to invite this state of hypnosis. So another thing too is, like, ordinarily, you've not got your hand out there, right? going around like that, and if you did, that would certainly be creating an altered state. So that's another thing, in fact, that so anything that we did, or anything that Penny did actually that was taking her out of her waking state, was creating an altered state. So mostly, whilst we were doing this, I was talking to Penny in a feeling mode, and I was having her address things on a kinesthetic level, because mostly what she's conscious of is what she's visually aware of and what she hears. And so the kinesthetic self, anything that I was saying that using kinesthetic predicates involving a kinesthetic system was creating an altered state, mostly because it was taking Penny out of her most used system. And so that's another thing that you'll want to be remembering, when you're accessing trance for self, or when you're doing this with others.
What does it mean about Penny's wiring, that her neurology, that she tended to use these fingers where almost everybody else?
Well, the first thing is that there was a sense, I think it was excellent that Penny selected these fingers, and I was really pleasantly surprised that she did. And because first of all, what I know is when she's doing this is the very periphery of herself that's involved. She lifted her little finger on her left hand for yes, little finger on her right hand for no, and so what I know is that it was totally involving the very periphery of herself, and not only that, but we'd accessed a state in Penny that was involving her creative self, and the passion for things that she's wanting were also accessed as a result of the little fingers being involved. Okay?
I also noticed at the end when her hands came down, every finger came down but her index finger on her right hand. On
Yes,
her left hand.
Excellent. Good that you noticed that.
Because I sort of related it to the pinkies going up and then maybe like keeping direction.
Well, actually, the one thing that you'll remember was that Penny also had the sound of the surf. And so she had whilst the sound of the surf was there, her finger was up. And that was indicating to...
Carrie had the sound of the surf.
Yes, no, Penny did too. Yeah. Anyway, so, we set that up as well. So actually, the main thing about Penny's finger being up a little bit, right, was indicating to us, we'd set up an idiomotor dynamic with her so that we would know on the outside, and also that she would have control over the sound, the volume of the sound, and that it was being set up to be an idiomotor dynamic. It's like leverage, involving the leverage of a motor movement that would then create a state. So when Penny lifted her finger up, the volume went up, and then when it subsided a little, her finger was going down. The other thing that we noticed about Penny were the movements were very much, when you've accessed an older state, movements are not like, a person sort of going, doing like this much, but actually it's kind of jerky, relatively sometimes abrupt a little. Mostly, you'll sense this as a person's accessed an older state. So the one thing that we just said before about direction, you're always moving toward the thing that you want and moving away from the thing that you love to move away from. And so we built that process really strong, and then we sped the whole thing up. Because when the brain decides to do something, it does it at about 1,000th of a second. So you want to pace whatever it is, back into the unconscious mind. So slowing things down, that's involving vestibular. Speeding things up, that's slowing things down is vestibular. Speeding things up is vestibular, and anything that's to do with speed is vestibular. So there were quite a few vestibular predicates that were used in the induction, because mostly they are words that are feeding the brain stem. Okay.
What about at the end, when you had her go even deeper into
Yes.
and then all of a sudden just shook her out of it?
Yes. So mostly, the whole process is paced into the unconscious mind. Right. Yeah.
So
but you don't have to do that. It just really depends on what's there, because it's such a pleasant state that the person can decide, that they can take a little time to come back actually.
Right. I think it's a great program. I think it's a great piece.
Yeah.
Because it really allows exactly that. It wires in, letting us know that when we enter into those deep parts of ourselves, that we can linger there, we can enjoy it, we can really...
So it's sometimes also good maybe to offer the person the choice. Yes. Okay. All right. Now, I think probably we really should go on to metaphor, talk a little bit about metaphor, use of metaphor. So the time when you would want to use metaphor, what situation would arise, possibly when there was a need to use metaphor?
When somebody wasn't telling you specifically what was going on.
Maybe, yes.
A conscious objection to learning something, or a conscious objection to receiving information about what that is.
Okay, did everybody catch that? Yes, okay. So that would be a time when you really would, you have the ability to use metaphor. What about other times?
When you're speaking to a whole group of people and you want everybody to read into it what would be important for them?
Yes, okay, that's another time.
When you want to harness the person's own creative will,
yes,
metaphor,
yes,
their creativity has to...
Yes, because if this is going to have meaning, then using metaphor, the person has to access deeper, in themselves, the meaning of something. So that when you use metaphor, you are speaking to the deeper part of the person, actually. So that's another reason why you would want to use metaphor, to speak to a deeper part, so that the person's listening well below the surface of the ears and really listening with their heart to understand the meaning of something. And what else? Give me another reason why metaphor, an excellent, an advantage with metaphor.
You might be talking to somebody in I want to say, you might want to get them to stop doing something, and a way of doing that would be less critical, would be to use a metaphor.
Okay, so that related to the point of bypassing conscious objection by using metaphor. The more that you felt that conscious objection would enter into the process, the more likely it is that you need to remove, like create a selection restriction violation, like a sad rock, a happy tomato plant. Use isomorphism to move it more away from the person, so that talk about my friend John had this, or describe some patient that somebody else had, or some other situation that removes it away from the person. So what's another reason why you would, or an advantage in using metaphor?
To gain rapport, you could use a metaphor to better relate. Maybe to what, where they're coming from, or what they're doing.
All right, okay. The main
descriptions are related.
Yes, okay. Now this point has something to do with this.
So you use more of your own brain?
Yes, okay. And how you could use more of your brain would be that you have the ability to explain something that you might not quite have words consciously to describe exactly what it was that occurred, and you do have the ability to use metaphor to explain something in terms of something else. And so this is giving you greater ability to communicate. Those of you who are developing this ability to use metaphor, the language that's most enduring and most endearing, and the messages that have come down to us through the ages, our greatest insight has come from philosophy and science. But these disciplines are not what words have been passed down to us that's been most enduring and most endearing. It's the poets, the words that the poet has spoken, that have come down to us. So this is a message that's a very good idea to develop this component of self, because this is what really creates an endurance and an endearment. And sages of a time gone by and sages today recognize the power of the word, the power in the word. So most everything that I write and what I do is I truly have learnt the value of the usefulness of metaphor and having the ability to speak in a symbolic manner as well. And not only that, but when you have this ability, you are feeling a much expanded self, because some things that you really now do have the ability to put to terms as a result of using metaphor. So everything has a structure, and so it's a harnessing that structure actually that becomes a vehicle for movement through something. So for instance, if you were to build a metaphor and let's just say that let's say a relationship, has ended more or less as far as two people being together, and so maybe you know something about that. Maybe you have some things about the two people that were involved in this. It's possible to create a metaphor speaking about maybe two animals or two eagles, and you could say that these eagles once came together and flew the same winds, and whilst they were flying the same winds, but surely there was a sense of winds that were taking these two eagles in different directions. And two eagles will fly, the eagles will fly, and they'll fly the same winds and play those same winds until finally they really are finding a mate that's willing to fly the same winds as this eagle. And that the eagles are alone, until in fact that they find another eagle to fly the same winds with. And so that's one of the most important things, matter of fact, in the eagle selecting a mate, is that the eagle, gets used to flying set currents and things, and then it's truly waiting for a mate to come and be, flying the same winds. So, the metaphor speaks to a deeper part of ourselves, and so there's great value in using metaphor as a result of this. I have a knife here, and of course, what's a knife symbolic of? Sharpness, ability to cut through, right? Ability to cut through, so anything in your thought processes that are your ability to cut through, right? The handle of this knife, this is a medicine plant knife for cutting medicine plant, and the handle of the knife has grown from a tree that was in the desert. And as you look at the handle, you can see how this tree grew in a manner that sparsed itself to conserve its energy quite intensely. It's hollow in the middle, and there's just a little wood, and it is very, very strong. So the desert, there's metaphor for the desert, of course, a sense of aloneness, a sense of stillness, and a sense of energy being conserved quite incredibly. And so the blade of this knife is made of copper, and copper allows a greater degree of conductivity. And so that's the reason why this medicine knife, is made with copper. In fact, because the plant doesn't quite so feel the copper blade coming through it as it would some other metal. There's a greater sense of conduction still through the plant, actually through the copper. So a medicine woman made this knife for me, and she's left some of her blood on this knife, on the leather here, on it. So it has her scan on this, her own individual crystals that each of us have, that our blood is made up of, and that this is resonating a frequency that's akin to wherever it is that she is. There's a sympathetic vibration between the crystals that she leaves behind and wherever it is that she is. So, you could pick up anything that I have here on my medicine sprawl here, and each thing has a metaphor and it has a structure. So what do you think that this green jade bear would be symbolic of?
Very
Earth. Yes, it's a kind of bear is very kind of earth symbol.
Green is nurturing.
Green is a balancing colour. And green very much is involving the ability to convert energy that's coming from the sun, in the plant, and that green as a colour is in the middle of the rainbow. So green is a balancing colour.
And the bear goes into a deep inward state in hibernation.
Yes, so the bear is a symbol of introspection because it hibernates. The bear also is a fiercest of protectors of their young. A mother bear, quite incredibly, she protects her young under all extremes, and she is about the fiercest in protecting her young.
And they eat nuts and berries.
And so the bear is a symbol of family, and the bear is a symbol of strength. And so balance, greenness being in the middle of the rainbow, and a balancing colour that stimulates the heart chakra. That's our heartfelt sense of ourselves being here. And so the bear is symbolic of those things, this green bear is. Where you place something has a structure. In what relationship you place something. So I have a whale's tooth here that's come from an orca whale. And the metaphor for me with this tooth is that a fellow came to one of our trainings, and he was diabetic, and he really wanted to kick this condition of diabetes, and so he's free of diabetes today, and he'd had this tooth ever since he was 5 years of age. Anyway, so that's the way he gave it to me. He said, "This has been my longest possession that I've had all my life, and I want to give this, to you." And he said, "No, by the way," he said, "this tooth was next to one of the largest brains in the world." So that's something that I remember whenever I see this tooth. You'll be back in 25 minutes, okay? So, having this crystal ball here on the blanket, the crystal ball is symbolic of an auspiciousness about the ability to see into the future. to see the future, and the ability to stalk. And that stalking is the act of having choice to change destiny. Stalking is actually the act of making something tangible that's about the future, so much so that you really do have the ability to have choice, in fact, in what it is that occurs, and more likely that your future pays something, so that when you arrive somewhere, it's something that actually occurs. So the crystal ball is an auspiciousness around ability to see into the future. The flickering light of a candle is the analogue of movement, which invites movement and enables us to be able to dissociate, to go from to go into the past or to go into the future, and certainly to go from one thing to the next, because the analogue of the flickering of the flame and the light is the analogue of movement. So it really is inviting dissociation. A fire, having like a fire, the fire is a symbol of transformation. And so it can be used in this way. Literally, when we have a circle, you could imagine that there's a fire in the centre, and that we have the ability to speak our thoughts to this fire, and that it has the ability to transform this energy and spread it out to make it pervasive. I have a crystal here, and so this crystal has a clear head, and its face and sides are quite sharp and clear, and you have the ability to see through this crystal. So all of these words, any word that you use has a physiology, and literally the crystal has a physiology. When I see this crystal, it's involving a visual system. The crystal is involving the visual system. The crystal is also creating a degree of coherence. So ordinarily the energy is kind of a little bit more scattered, and a crystal has the slowest rate of entropy. Out of all things, entropy is a slow state of everything falling apart, and crystal has the slowest rate of entropy. It is the fastest, finest vibration, right? And it has the slowest rate of decay. So crystal has the ability to make coherent some energy that's there. And so the crystal invites this.
Did you say the fastest
Yes.
vibration?
Yes. So fast, in fact, that we have the ability to see through it. Like a fan, that the faster the fan goes, all of a sudden you begin to see through it. So I have a camel's tooth here. And what do you think the camel's tooth is symbolic of? Endurance. Okay. So the camel very much has the ability to endure, and the camel very much has the ability to conserve its energy and to use it over a period of time. And the camel is a vehicle for, and so it's inviting a symbolism of carriage, movement of the dreams that you have from one place to the next. And so what else about this being a tooth? The ability to cut through. What else is about this being a tooth?
Nourishment.
Yes, nourishment. And consumption, ability to consume, and assimilation, and nourishment. So this tooth is symbolic of those things. So anything, matter of fact, that you find it's possible this has a structure. And so what we're going to ask you to do now is for the next half an hour, and you'll come back at 4 o'clock. Okay? At 4 o'clock you'll come back and you'll have this period of time now to go outside and to be by yourself and to go somewhere that you have the ability to be inside yourself. And so there won't be any dialogue, so that you can be by yourself, and you'll remember the 4 directions, and that the 4 directions are another way that you have in your ability to organize your thoughts, and also a stepping stone to speak from, that some of you may go east, some of you may go south, some of you may go west, and some of you may go north, or a combination of these 2 things. And so east was the place of new beginnings, of the rising sun, and that aspect of ourself which is an expressive self and a positive expansion of the ions in the atmosphere and everything coming out. And so in the south, if you went south, it would be going into your playful self, to a place of warmth, a place of the children, the child within you, a place of intimacy, like the field mouse up close, a place of the trickster, the Hyoka energy. The Hyoka in a tribe here in the North American continent, the Hyoka had a very necessary role in the tribe, because let's just say that somebody was kind of really lording it round with, they were wearing all of their stuff and they were kind of lording it round everywhere, right? Well, the Hyoka always was there, to bring something into alignment. And so the Hyoka would go out and get buffalo dung and string it, make strings of buffalo dung and kind of wear all this buffalo dung and follow this person around everywhere they went. And everybody in the tribe would laugh, you see. They would see the hilariousness of what was going on. And so the Hyoka really had this trickster kind of a